Hello there. Hey guys, thank you so much for clicking on this video or being here live with us right now. Um, look forward to tonight. Me and Emily have been preparing since last week. Whoa! We got a loop there. So she's got it on her laptop so that way she can see the comments and we can try to interact together during this time a little bit more.
Producer Braden's missing today. We miss you, Braden.
Yeah, we love you, Braden. So at the end of this, we're going to try to keep it to the point, discuss a couple verses in Colossians, but at the end of it, we got a couple of things that we just want to share with you, some encouragements and something that we want you to download on your phone so that we can hang out a little bit more during this time. But to keep it to the point and as simple as we can so that everybody can understand at least the primary point that we believe what we're going to read is talking about. We're gonna focus on one truth, and then we have a couple applications. But if at any time you're getting confused, go back and think about this one truth, all right, and then try to trickle down and figure out, okay, how is it, and go back and watch whatever. But yeah, we're super glad that you guys are here. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to jump right into it, okay? So Colossians chapter 1, verse 15. We're only going to read 3 verses tonight. The reason we're going to do that is because last week I said there's so much in this first chapter, and what we read last week, we didn't get through even half of it.
It took us like 40 minutes.
Yeah, and we want to go quick, but we want to make the point that I believe the Apostle Paul, who wrote this book, is making. So here's what it says in verse 15. It says, He, Jesus, he's talking about Jesus now. He, Jesus, is the image of the invisible God, the firstborn over all creation. For everything was created by him, in heaven and on earth, the visible and the invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, all things, listen to this, have been created through him and for him. All things have been created through Jesus and for Jesus. Paul says Jesus is the image of the invisible God. Okay, here's the truth tonight, guys. If anything gets confusing, remember this. Write this down. Think about this. Here's the truth. Sorry. Well, it's easy though. Through Jesus and for Jesus, all things have been created. All right? Through Jesus and for Jesus, all things have been created. So that's a truth that I'm saying I believe, but think about this for a second. Paul, who wrote this, is making that claim. He's writing to a group of Christians that they're dealing with some problems in the place that they live with some different things, right? He's writing to encourage them and challenge them. And Paul reminds them of what we believe, what we profess to believe as Christians. We don't believe that Jesus was just some guy. We don't believe that, I don't know. We believe it's important that Jesus is God.
And then we don't believe there are other gods, right? We believe that Jesus is God and God is who he says it is, and there is no other God.
Yeah, and so I want you to think about this, because when you think about creation, when I do at least, if you believe in a God, then you think, okay, God created these trees all around me. He created the stars in the sky. But Paul's saying, okay, that same God who created those things is actually Jesus. And so again, the truth is this, guys. Through Jesus and for Jesus, those two things, through and for, are both important. Through Jesus and for Jesus, all things have been created. All right? And he's over all of it. He's in control of all of it. He's got it. Nothing's throwing him off guard. So here's one way that I think from this truth, we just need to think a little bit deeper. All right? And that is, if you want to know God, then you need to look at Jesus. Okay? So often, I believe people in general, they might say they're spiritual or something like that. I pray.
Or I believe in God.
Yeah, but are you just going and you're just praying to a God, saying, God, are you out there? Because God, we believe as Christians, this is why we have good news that we can tell people. We believe that God has made himself known in Jesus Christ. He's come down, taken on flesh, become like us, right? And that's a big deal, all right? So if you want to know God, then begin to look at Jesus. This whole book points to him, the Old Testament and the New. But if you want to look at specifically Jesus, the books of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you can go and read those and see the whole life of Jesus. Learn about, okay, here's how Jesus acted in this situation. That's how God acted in that situation. Here's how Jesus, that's how God views interaction with people. Jesus is God. It's a big, big claim. All right. So second little thing under that truth. When we say that all these things are created through Jesus and for Jesus, hey, Amy, this doesn't mean, all right, that God is dependent on us for anything. All right. It doesn't mean that God needs us. Oh, I'm so special, God needs me. All right. If you guys have interacted with me more than like one time, you realize I'm not that special. I mean, I'm special in other ways, but yeah, you get that. So all these things, you and me, this creation, it's to bring him praise and glory and honor. And so we'll look a little bit deeper at, okay, what does that mean? How is this all connected? But I mean, is there anything you want to share?
I think it's just important to note that Paul is celebrating this, right? It's called the preeminence of Christ. It's the title of this section. Your Bible says the centrality of Christ. Right? Paul isn't saying, hey, you know, Jesus is the one who's over all this, like, what a bummer. Like, no, Jesus is saying, like, or Paul is saying, hey, Jesus is the creator of all this. He's the one who's doing all this and over all these things. It's not like any Paul at this point is bummed about the authority of God. And that's where, when I read this, when I see that Jesus is the image of God and that he is the creator of all things and that everything is for him, he's not saying, man, I wish things were for me. I wish that Jesus built these things up for me. I mean, I have changed, like, I've given my whole life up for this, right? You know, he's saying, like, yeah, guys, this is for Jesus. So take heart, right? This is for Jesus.
Yeah, I think that it's important that we think about this as if you say you're a Christian, it's important, it's vital. We're going to get to asking some hard questions, all right? Because we're not with you, but you're probably watching this by yourself, okay? And it's easier, if we're honest, to ask ourselves hard questions, think about hard things when we're by ourselves. All right, we don't have distractions of people around us who, oh, they might see me raise my hand in worship or something. So right now, you can be thinking about these things. Do I believe this statement Paul is saying about Jesus? How does my life reflect that I believe this? Because the point that I'm trying to get to is the gospel demands that we are humble as Christians. The gospel depicts that me and Emily, right, you, if you're a Christian, you are not better than Sally over there who's going out partying every weekend, who's cursing all the time and doing whatever you think is bad in your mind or sinful. The gospel shows us that, hey, we're all sinners on the same playing field. All right. Okay. So you have to have humility and acknowledge, okay, I'm no better than anybody else. This God over all creation, Jesus, right, who's brought about salvation, who's came and taken his whole wrath, the wrath of God upon himself that I deserved, right? He didn't do that because I was better than anybody else or I deserved more than anybody else. He did that simply because he's gracious and full of mercy and love. He did it for the praise and honor and glory of his own name. All right. And so when we talk about that word humble, right? How are you humble? How is your Christian walk display that you see God rightly as being the one who's ultimately in control and ultimately authoritative and the ruler of everything over governments, your parents, everything? And how are you humbly following after that God, this one true God? That's a question that we've got to ask ourselves. And so I have, I kind of know my train of thought, but is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, so just the whole serving and loving Jesus might have your purpose just shifted completely in the last week and a half. This is the way I serve Jesus. I play football. This is the way I serve Jesus. I go to church on Wednesday night, so I'm all set. That is where I serve Jesus. And recently, I hope y'all can hear me a little bit. I see that you can't. But recently, you may have lost whatever that may be. And so what we have to realize is that when our circumstances change, our purpose doesn't change, right? So when our circumstances change, God hasn't changed. When our circumstances change, Jesus hasn't changed. And so the good news is that we always have a purpose, right? As Christians, when things change, we're not throwing our hands up, wondering what's happening and saying it's glitchy. Y'all, I'm so sorry. Y'all's voice is glitchy.
Oh no.
Brandon, we need you.
It's okay.
But ultimately, my challenge to you is to recognize that wherever you are right now, maybe you're stuck at your grandparents' house right now, maybe you're stuck at your parents' house right now, maybe you're with your friends, maybe you're not. This is where the Lord is this time for you right now. He's not saying that his plan is thwarted. And so use this to fulfill what he's called you to.
Yeah, and if we go back to the truth, remember, if right now, okay, if this video is messing up or whatever, keep going back to the truth that we are making a claim about, that Paul's making a claim about, that through Jesus and for Jesus, all things have been created. If this is true, then here is something that I believe about our purpose as followers of Jesus. We will ultimately find the joy that we're seeking, the satisfaction that we're seeking, only the depth of that we're seeking. We'll only find the true depth and genuineness and greatness of that joy and satisfaction when we are walking in relationship and full surrender and trust with Jesus Christ. That's a big deal, because I enjoy a lot of things. I enjoy video games. I enjoy hanging out with friends. I enjoy eating. I enjoy watching TV, right? Like, not all these things are bad. But if I am only focused on those things, then I'm not going to be walking in a way, like there's going to be something missing. And it's because Jesus is gracious to kind of let me know, okay, there's something missing. You've set your eyes off of me and you've been focusing too much on these other things. We are ultimately satisfied. We are ultimately filled with joy when we see Jesus rightly as the ruler and author of all creation, and we're following him with everything in our lives. Okay, so again, that requires humility, because we got to submit to someone else. All right, we're not the boss, the ruler of our own destiny. That's what a lot of people say. But the Bible doesn't teach that. The Bible doesn't teach that you're in control of everything. The Bible teaches that God is. That's contrary to what the world believes. But again, we don't look at the world and say, you're a bunch of idiots. We look at them and say, let me love you. Let me tell you about Jesus. Let me tell you about what he's done in my life. Let me share this truth of God making himself known to all creation. This is a big deal, guys, and it's so awesome. So some application that I think it's so important that we think about. And this is where, again, the thinking and being by yourself is going to come in handy. It's going to allow you to sit here and really meditate on this. That is, if you were created for a relationship with Jesus, then, and what I said is true, that you're not going to find true joy and satisfaction until you are fully surrendered to Jesus. Then, well, you might be sitting there going, I've been miserable before this whole quarantine thing. My life is miserable. I'm filled with misery. There's no joy in me. What are you doing? Look at your life and ask yourself, okay, if there's all my relationships turn hostile, if I'm constantly in fights with people, if I'm constantly going to bed depressed, right, then maybe it's not everybody else around you. Maybe it's that you haven't fully surrendered and trusted that Jesus is who he says he is. And in his grace, he's letting you be miserable so that you can ultimately be drawn to him. And guys, I believe that with all of my heart. I believe that even as a follower of Jesus, I see these things that I enjoy kind of be pushed up a little bit too much sometimes, to where it's like I'm bringing Jesus down in my mind. I mean, I can't bring him down, but in my mind, I'm bringing him down. And when I bring him down to a close level as video games or reading or watching TV or whatever, then I begin to get miserable. But when I'm miserable, it's him really, I believe this, it's him moving me back to a place where I'm saying, okay, I need to push these things away for a minute. And I need to remember, okay, who is my Lord? Who's the one who tells me where to go? Who's the one who is giving me life this morning?
if when you hear us say surrender to Jesus, and you're like, my challenge to you I would say that you don't understand, you don't believe what Colossians 1 says, because there are times it's difficult to surrender my will to the Lord, and that's when I've forgotten who He is, or choose to know who He is. It's great, right? My flesh is weak. Emily can't hear you. I'm so sorry. I don't know how. Maybe I just shouldn't speak through.
No. How can you hear me but you can't hear her? It doesn't make sense. Okay.
My voice is broken.
You're talking the same loudness as me.
Well, my point is, when you see Jesus and you fall in love with Him, it becomes easier and easier to surrender to Him.
Yeah.
The more you know about Jesus, the more you love Him, and surrendering comes easier.
Yeah. So the easiest way to make an application out of this for everybody, whether you're a believer or not a believer, is to say, okay, if we're making this claim about Jesus, then I can at least seek Jesus. If I'm following Him, I need to be seeking Him. If I'm not following Him, let me at least seek Him and try to figure out, okay, is there any validity to what these people are saying? Another application that I want to make, and I want you guys to be thinking about, is if Jesus is in control, if Jesus is the one who is the author of everything, one who everything is for, then during this time where life may get hard, during this time where things just aren't going the way that we want them to go, where we may be experiencing what we consider a trial, right? We need to recognize this truth that God is working all these things out to sanctify us. What that word sanctification means is God states, or whether there's a person in Africa, if they're following Jesus, if we're following Jesus, God is using everything in our lives to make us more like Himself. I just read that in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. Paul says it's God's will that you be sanctified. It's God's will that we become more like Christ. He is the one who's working all these things out, if we're following Him, to become more like Him. If we see in our lives that we are not becoming more like Christ, but instead we are distancing in our character further and further away from Christ, then there's a problem. If it's God's will that believers become more like Him, and He's the one who does that work in their lives, and that's not happening, there is something up in your life. There might be something that is in your life that has become an idol, that has become something you are placing on equal playing field as God. And that thing is making it so that you can't focus on God, you can't seek God, because Paul tells us in Romans chapter 1, he says that God's enslaved us to these idols because we wouldn't worship them rather than Him. And so you need to ask yourself, are these trials, are these hardships? It doesn't mean they're not hard. It doesn't mean me and Emily are never going to fight. We're going to have a perfect relationship. It doesn't mean I'm always going to treat my parents like I should treat them. But what it means is God is working daily in every circumstance and situation to show me more about Himself and make me more like Himself. He's the one who's doing that. Guys, it's a big deal. Think about these things, all right? So we're right at the end, okay? So we're almost done, and then we're gonna kind of just hang out with you at the end and share some information with you. But I think it's important, guys, that we ask ourselves tonight, we ask ourselves every day, Jesus, do I see you rightly? Jesus, am I fully surrendered to you? Jesus, do I trust that your will and your ways are greater than and more wise than my ways? And so when we think about that, and we think about panic, being miserable, we think about the things that are going crazy, right? Again, if everything in your life is miserable, I want you to at least ask yourself, what are my priorities? What of this is other people, and what of this is actually my heart that I haven't fully surrendered to Jesus? And so,
just to add on, you can totally be miserable and have hope, right? Maybe you felt that before.
Oh, yeah.
You can, Jesus, for example, someone who is miserably like, we're not saying when things are going bad, it's always sin and also.
Yes, please.
Hear us clear that when you are convicted, the Holy Spirit convicting you, that can be a painful season. Just to see your sin. I've never seen my sin. It is not fun, but it's effective.
But again, knowing Christ will help give us clarity in all situations, will help us be realigned with the mind of God, the person of God. And so like Jesus told his disciples in John 16, verse 33, he said, I've said these things to you that in me you may have peace. I've told you all these things about who I am. I've walked with you for these past few years, teaching you and letting you experience my ministry so that you may have peace. Okay? He's made himself known so that we can have peace. Peace with God, peace in our hearts, peace understanding the hope we have that this world isn't it. This world isn't where we're going to find that ultimate joy and satisfaction. It's only in the company of Christ. And so he said, in this world you will have tribulation. You will have trial, pain, suffering. Bad things are going to happen. But it's okay. Take heart. I have overcome the world. That's what Jesus said. We have a Savior. We have a ruler. We have a King. We have a God who has overcome the world, who has made all things be at peace within our hearts. Okay? And so we look forward to something else. We look forward to a time when he recreates everything perfect. When we're with him, we get to enjoy his presence. When we get to walk with one another and we're not corrupted by our own sin, by the sin of others. That's an awesome hope that we have. Look at the person of Jesus. And so I kind of have like my last thing that I'm thinking about. But you said something earlier when we were talking about this about giving up, like, did you say that in this video about football? Maybe football's your thing.
Yeah, I did say that.
But it's kind of hard to remember the thought, isn't it? Lots of thoughts go,
I hope this is if it is, I'm so sorry.
It doesn't make sense.
I'm reading a book right now, and it says that to be in contact with people all the time, maybe who say, my job is lame, my school is lame, this is lame, my family is lame, and all those things we deem as lame, the Lord has given to us to use to redeem and reconcile those who are lost. And so I'm convicted because I have said, which is funny, I've said this virtual relationships are lame. Social media is lame. When for right now, this is what the Lord has given us to work with. And I am so thankful that I have this, right? When my voice is shaky, the Lord is not. When my voice echoes, the Holy Spirit still is strong and mighty. So just know that whatever you are saying, I know it's hard I can't imagine being like losing so many things in high school and middle school. We can trust that the Lord has not lost us, right? He has this good plan that he's working out. And so figure out what that is for you right now. How are you going to serve and love the people in your house and in your neighborhood while being socially distant?
And to piggyback on what you just said, that is such a good point. If you're a senior or at a place in school and you're just like super bummed out, okay, we're not in school and we may not get to go back to school this year, or not this year, but this before summer, then it's hard for us to relate to that. Like I can look at you and try to act all day, okay, get over it, it'll be all right. I can't relate to the pain and like the frustration that you're dealing with right now. But what we can do is we can point you to the one who can give you peace during those things, who can realign your thoughts and totally transform your heart, right? And maybe you know that, but maybe you don't know that. And so again, if you don't know that, or if you do, let's seek Jesus. Because what do we believe if we're followers of Jesus? What does Paul proclaim about Jesus? That through Jesus and for Jesus, all things have been created. And so I'll close with this. One of the passages that I referenced, Romans 1:25. I have it written down, but it summarizes our state in our hearts as just humanity before God, our relationship. This is kind of what's happened. We exchanged the truth of God for a lie. Instead of worshiping God, who is the truth, right? We went and we worshiped other things. We exchanged the truth of God for something that was untrue, something that was not God. They worshiped idols, right? They served something created instead of the Creator. That's us. We have served something other than God. And because of that, that passage says that God has enslaved us to those desires. And so what we need to constantly be battling against is, whether we're a Christian or not, specifically I'm talking to Christians now, what we need to be battling against is our desires in these idols back here coming back and taking the place of God. Because again, I believe that that's the place where we're not going to have peace. That's the place where we're not going to have joy, where we're not going to have true satisfaction. There may be a little bit of fun in the moment, but if you have replaced the glory of God, which his purposes will stand, and his purpose in your life is for you to enjoy relationship with him. If you've replaced all that with oh, I got a plan, I'm going to do it, then you're missing out. You've totally missed the gospel and all the goodness that it proclaims. And so here's really the closeout. Sorry. If you guys come to church, you guys know I do that. I'm sorry. The Colossians, they had worshipped, prior to hearing about Jesus, carved images, stones, big monuments that they believed to be gods, made sacrifices to them, did all these different things. They worshipped other, man-made images. We live in a time, at least with us in America, most places in the world don't worship these little physical idols made out of wood or whatever it may be. But what we specifically as Americans probably struggle the most with trying to follow Jesus is worshiping something else that we think, okay, that can't be an idol, but it may be a sport. It may be our school. It may be our friends. It may be a relationship that we're in. It may be something we know entirely we shouldn't do, but it's really just got us. It's enslaved us. If we are enslaved to something, and we are pursuing that thing as our ultimate desire for satisfaction and joy, it will never satisfy. You need to surrender that to Jesus. And you need to not just take my word for it. You need to just do that on your own, because I say this all the time. I cannot save you. I cannot make you believe. I just want to encourage everybody to at least seek Jesus. And so that's kind of what we're going to close with. Everything has been created through Jesus and for Jesus. Jesus' purposes will stand. God's purpose is to make you more like himself. He's working all things out to do that. He's using this poopy situation, being stuck at home, going stir crazy. He's using it all to make you more like himself. But if that hasn't happened in your life, again, ask yourself, have I fully trusted in Jesus? Have I sought Jesus? Do I know him? And so that's it. We're not going to close with a prayer or anything, but you guys, I want you go do whatever you want to do. If you want some things to write down, you can go and read chapter 1 of the book of John. It kind of lines up, I think, with this picture of Jesus, proclaiming him as the God of all creation. So if you want to go and read John chapter 1, it gives a picture of Jesus as being one with God, as him being God. And it's really a beautiful picture. Hebrews chapter 1, verse 3 says that he is the reflection, the exact expression, the exact representation of God, the radiance of his glory. So go and read, right? And seek him for yourself. What we're gonna kind of, now that we're kind of finished with that, unless you want to say anything else?
No, but thank you,
guys.
Thank you for staying even through the app. So the Bible app, a lot of us are reading through together.
Mm-hmm.
If you would want that link, we would love to send it to you. It's not like 7 chapters a day. Like I think today it was just 25 verses, something like that. And Luke is an incredible book to look and see who Jesus is. Luke was a doctor. He was incredibly smart, and you got to see and witness so much of what Jesus did, and really good accounts. And so if you are wondering anything about Jesus, read Luke with us. And then the other announcements.
Yeah. So, I mean, I want to encourage you guys, go and like be texting one another. Someone that pops in your mind, text them, see how they're doing. Like, love one another in this time. If you think of someone that, you just have no idea who they hang out with, then reach out to them. This is a time where we can get alone and bored and go crazy. So let's encourage one another, but text one another. Here is what I want to show you guys. This is not an ad. It's not an ad. If they want to sponsor us, they can though. Shout out to Amy Ford. It was her idea, and it was clutch Amy Ford. All right, okay. There's this app. Oh goodness. Okay, it's called. Well, you can't. It's called Bunch. Oh goodness, horrible quality. Bunch.
It's blue and it has a white.
Is this one Bunch? Okay, and here's what this app does. Guys, we can play games with like 8 people in it. You're like video chatting and playing a game at the same time. So it's just a fun way that we can like hang out. And yeah, how about do this? If you download this app, whenever we finish this video and it goes live like on this page, type in the comments. Go back to it. Type in the comments. Okay, I downloaded the app. Add me, and I'll send you a message or something on Instagram or wherever, and we'll get it. But we want to have fun. We want to talk to you guys.
We want to see your faces.
Yeah, this is great, but like it's still kind of like we get to read some of the things you're saying, but
yeah, hey, Eleanor, I hope it's like yesterday, but I don't think we're gonna be
yeah, it is sad. But another thing, just want to encourage you guys. If you don't like have anything to do other than homework, read the word, then you sit down and you like watch TV and like look at your phone all day. I look at my phone too, guys. I play games. I do stuff that is fun, enjoyable, but I've got to get away. I got to step away from the screens for a little bit. So I just want to encourage you guys. Try to find like a hobby that you can do at your house. Maybe you want to try to cook, right? Maybe you want to go outside. Yeah, bunny nuggets. Maybe you want to go and collect grass. I don't know. But find out like a fun hobby, and then like, yeah, maybe.
Tell us what.
Yeah, tell me a fun hobby. So last thing until we go, and then always you can just share and close us out after this. All right.
Okay.
Sorry, but if you guys would do us a favor. If you will like I don't even know if you have to like it if that does anything. But if you will just share this and
subscribe,
get both of your parents, get your parents, your uncle. Look. Get your parents to make a YouTube account and subscribe. Because if we get enough subscribers, then we can record and it's going to be better quality from our phone.
And hopefully that is glitchy.
Yeah, because you said you couldn't hear Emily's voice. I don't know what that's about, but subscribe. Click that notification bell. Subscribe. No, but get your parents to subscribe. Tell them to support us. Support us. Are you uncomfortable, Emily?
I just never know where to look.
Oh, hey, little cutie. Hey, cutie. All right, hey, wait. Here's what I'm gonna do. Last video was 37 minutes. This video, no. But I'm not ending it just yet. I'm gonna look and see. Okay. All right, guys. Give us ideas of stuff. We're gonna try to do some fun stuff. Okay. Braden, what? Braden who? Braden Mitchell? Hey, Braden. Braden, I'm happy you're here, dude. I'm happy all you're here. Christopher, look at you, Christopher. Okay. All right. Doesn't look like you guys. I'm not really that fast of a reader. I was trying to look through the comments because they went away last time when I stopped. This is getting awkward, guys. Download that Bunch game and we'll play it like ASAP. Like we can play it like now, but I don't want. Oh, never mind. I don't want to do it on the camera right now. It was too long. It was too long.
We love you guys so much.
Bob Ross tutorial. Hey, can you do me a favor and type that in?
She said you were Bob Ross in chef form.
You shouldn't compare me to him. That's too sweet. Okay, all right. Bye, guys. Text us if you need anything. We love you. We're praying for y'all. Hope to get to see you guys in person soon. Download that app. Get your parents to subscribe. please, you will help us out. All right. See you guys. I struggle saying goodbye. I don't want to click it, but I'm just gonna do it. 3, 2, 1. I'm sorry. Is it over?
No.
Oh gosh. Oh no. It's fine.